Hi, my name is Maria Pierce, and I'm in my third month of my externship. Um, I can honestly say that I've learned a lot. Going into this externship, I was terrified, I was scared to death, I had all kinds of emotions going on. Um, Felt like I was going to throw up. I didn't know if I was happy or scared, or if I wanted to cry. Um, but now that I've been in it for 3 months, I've learned a ton. You have to go into it being very open-minded and be willing to accept constructive criticism. You're going to mess up. You're not going to hand stuff to the surgeon correctly. You're not going to set up your back table right, or you're not going to pull up to the field correctly. And your preceptor is going to tell you. You have to be willing to accept that and know that they're there to help you, and you just have to be willing to accept it. Every place is different. I've been at 3 different clinic sites now, and I see now that not everybody is the same. Surgeons are going to be really, really nice, and then you're going to have some that are going to scream and yell at you. Or I seen one just the other day that threw an instrument across the room because the other scrub tech that I was scrubbed in with didn't hand him what he wanted, and he threw it. Some cases are more intense than others, so the surgeons are going to be a little more uptight in those more intense cases, and you just have to give them what they want and take what they have to say and go on. I have found that the surgeons are all so very different. Some of them are glad to see a student in the room, and they want, to teach you, and they want you to learn and do your best. And then some of them are just like, oh, a student, they could care less if you're there or not. They're just there to do their jobs, and you just have to be there to do your job. The difference that I've seen in the sites are how they set the rooms up, how they tear the rooms down, how they open things, and I mean, everything's different. Everywhere you go, it's going to be different. So, be prepared. And that's what I'm trying to do, is prepare myself for those differences, because I eventually am going to travel. That's my goal. Um, you have to go in the room and be confident, show them what you know, and be willing to tell them what you don't know. That's going to get you more in return than, if you go in there and act like you know everything, when in all reality you don't know crap. There's a lot to learn. A lot. The difference in surgeries, even like GYN and general versus neuro and cardio or cardiac. Um, some are more laid back than others, and you just have to be able to adapt to those different situations. Um, Something I've learned too, like when you're setting up, is for your time management part of it, you have to try to set it up to where you're only moving things around once, and only put on your Mayo stand what you know for sure you're going to need. Kind of line it up in order of how you're going to hand it. I know that's hard when you're first learning, but after you do certain procedures over and over, you get used to the way surgeons do things, and every surgeon's different. You can work with 5 different general surgeons doing the exact same procedure, and each one of them is going to do things differently. And that's where your preference cards are going to come into play. That way you'll know if that surgeon uses a slang term for a hemostat, or if that surgeon uses an Alice instead of a Coker, or if they want, what blade they want. You just have to learn your surgeons, learn to read your preference cards, and always be willing to learn. That's what they're there for. That's what you're there for. You have to ask questions, and try to take in all that you can. If you're just observing, you have to, ask questions, like I said, and just take it all in. That's what it boils down to. You just have to take it all in. Your preceptors, they're all going to be different. They're all going to set things up differently. I was in 2 different carotid artery cases the other day with 2 different preceptors, and both of them set things up differently. It was for the same surgeon, but their setups were totally different. And we were taught in class that you set it up, your back table, your Mayo stand, set all that up for what you're comfortable with, and try to set it up the same every time. That way when you're reaching to your back table for an instrument, right where it's at every time. You have to be professional. I've seen a whole lot of being in the 3 different clinic sites. I've seen a lot of people not be professional. They talk about each other. They use foul language. They're kind of dirty-minded, some of them. You just kind of have to go with it and try not to put yourself in the middle of anyone's drama, or if they're talking about each other. You just kind of go in and know that you're there to do a job, and you just got to do your job. Back to the constructive criticism. If they're telling you you're doing something wrong, or handed something wrong, or your preceptor might tell you you didn't set something up right, you're gonna get beat up on, and you can't take it personal. You just have to go in there and do your best every time. No matter what the situation is, you have to do your best and be confident in what you know, and know that you're doing things the way that you were taught. Sterile technique is huge. You have to stick with that 100%, because if you don't, you're putting the patient's health at risk, and you have to take that home with you at night. And if you do something wrong, you're the one that has to live, knowing that you didn't fess up if something was contaminated, or knowing that you could have done your job a little bit better. You're the one that has to live with that. You can do anything that you put your mind to. You just have to give it your best. That's what it all boils down to. Time management, if you're like me and you're going to school, you're working, you have a family, there's a lot that goes into managing your time. And that's been a big issue for me. You have to, whether you are taking time away from your family or from your job, you have to make time for homework, and I haven't always been the best at that, I know, but that is like a huge part of your grade, and that's a huge part of getting through this whole process. Even though we're almost done with school, we're still learning. And if it means taking time away from the ones you love, or your, your job where you're making your money to pay your bills, you got to get through school too, because that's your future. And I'm learning every day. I'm still learning time management. I'm terrible at it. I'm a procrastinator. If I'm at clinics for 8 or 9 hours out of the day, and then I go and work 5 or 6 hours at my job, I still have to come home and do homework. And sometimes I just kind of blow it off, and that's not a good decision. You have to stay on top of things and manage your time wisely. What else was I going to talk about? I'll go back to like the different sites. The first clinic site I was at, we opened all of our own stuff to set up our own, back table, Mayo stand. We opened everything ourselves. We flipped the rooms ourselves, to get set up for the next procedure. We did everything. We didn't have anybody that came in after us